Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm delighted to be joined by newsman Amitai Winehouse.
Hello.
We learned today that Amitai is a managing editor of The Athletic.
I still don't know what it means.
I don't know what it means either, but it seems that you manage editors, do you?
No.
What a lie! The Athletic lies! Exclusive, you heard it here first. It's all Jon Mackenzie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good.
What's your job title?
Executive producer.
That makes sense because executives don't really do anything, do they?
And I don't produce.
You don't do any producing. Yeah. And Kaynak.
Hello.
What's your title?
Lead scriptwriter for Tifo.
Lead Arsenal fan in the room. Am I right? Top up? Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
Does anyone say top up?
Yeah, but that's when you're at the pub and you want...
Top up?
Yeah.
It's when you have a mobile phone in 2003. Top up?
Fuel tank as well.
And also producer James is here.
Hello, dear listener.
There he is. Right now, at the beginning, we talked about the fact that Roberto De Zerbi has joined Spurs as their new manager. We also talked about the fact that Italy have missed out yet again on the World Cup. For the third time running, they become the first team as previous winners to also, following that, miss three. I'm pretty good at this. Then we dedicate most of the show to this notion. Who won the summer transfer window of 2025? Well, we look back over the 20 most expensive signings that summer, most of which were Premier League related anyway, and then we do a little bit of assessing, don't we? By the time we get to the end, we ask the question, who won the window, who lost the window, and who were the best and worst individual players? So in today's episode, we hear about Arsenal, Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool, a little bit about Sunderland towards the end. We skip out Chelsea because we ran out of time, and then also we had quite a long conversation in the middle about, what was it, function rooms?
Function rooms.
Something to do with function rooms. I can't really recall. But it was good fun. Have I missed anything?
No.
Doesn't seem so. does it?
Something about Kaya not watching any TV.
Oh, yes, of
Oh,
course. Kaya, it turns out, as well as having not seen any films, he also hasn't seen any TV. And we find out the reason why. So stick around for that. And one other thing to mention before we get started. Next week, there's no Monday show because it's a bank holiday Easter Monday here in the UK. So there's no show on Monday. But our schedule does change from next Monday. We are adding yet another show because even though you're not asking for it, we're going to provide it. Here's how it works. On Sundays, we're going to live stream straight after the big Sunday fixture. So UK time around 6:30 p.m. There'll be me, there'll be John, there'll be producer James will be there. Hopefully somebody else, we don't know yet. So that we're going to do that next Sunday after the after the Chelsea Man City game. That's the first one.
When you say next Sunday, you mean not this Sunday?
Not this Sunday because it's Easter Sunday, but the Sunday after. So Sunday the 12th, I think that's when we start.
Right.
Then we'll have a Monday show as normal. Then we will have a show a little later in the week, I think on Thursdays, and then we'll have a Ring for Analysis on Friday. So there'll be 4 Tifo podcasts a week. Lucky/unlucky you, depending on your perspective, but it is happening regardless of what you think. Okay. Is that just, it feels like a positive enough fanfare? Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah.
What are you excited about?
The 4 Tifo shows
Oh,
in a week.
right. I thought it was just going to be something random.
I mean...
Are you excited about anything else?
Yeah, I'm excited about a few video games that are coming out soon.
Yeah. Let's end the show and talk about that. Bye. Hello. Well, where else to begin, of course, than with the news. It's time for news.
We've got newsman.
We've got
Amitai.
newsman Amitai Winehouse here.
Former news.
Well, listen, once a newsman, always a
true.
newsman.
Yeah.
I know that you're a senior editor or whatever it is you are now. They've over-promoted this guy hugely.
They've also changed all the job titles.
Have they?
Yeah.
To around yours so that you still feel junior.
No. I have a different job title. But
What's your job title?
I feel like we don't need to get into job
I'd
titles.
love to know what it is. Is it newsman?
I think it's managing editor.
Oh, he's a managing editor. Ooh. Managing newsman, more like this guy. Anyway, he's brought news with him. I mean, not technically, but news has happened since you were last here. The first is, a sad day for Italy, of course, a very sad day. Because, of course, their best football manager has joined Spurs. Hey! I've knocked my microphone away. That's a shame. What a shame. That was a pretty good joke. Nobody laughed at that one, though. Did you understand it? Just checking you understood it.
I'm just, you hit the mic
Right.
and I lost all
You were furious with my mic technique.
You broke the fourth wall.
I know,
that
what a
I
shame.
am. Am I the fourth? Is that the fourth wall or the third wall? If you're involved in the thing,
You
broke the third
Well,
wall.
you're in here.
right? So the fourth wall is the camera.
The fourth wall's the camera, which I break
So I
pretty
think
regularly.
I must be the third wall. I'm in between you and the camera.
That's true. What are the first three walls?
I don't think there can't be other
So
walls.
the first three walls are just the walls
stage,
around,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So the fourth wall is the thing
Oh,
that
you're
isn't there
right.
between
So
you
there
and
was
the
the
audience.
back, and so you're not.
But
there's
what
no
do you
wall
say
between
when you're
us.
in a round? There you go.
If I broke this wall, that would be one of
Don't
the
break that
walls.
wall.
I think this, because it's behind me, the host, is the first wall. I think the one that's behind you might be the second wall.
Oh, so you broke the second wall.
And I don't think we can see the third wall.
I suppose that would be the third wall behind you.
Yeah, but I
there,
don't
right?
think we have got no wide. I'm not sure anyone can see this wall.
okay.
James, can they see this wall?
They can kind of see it.
A tiny little bit of the third wall.
What no one knows is there's no third wall in the Tifo studio.
The fourth wall is bigger than the third wall.
We're actually live in front of a studio audience. They just really don't find us funny.
That's it's funny you say that, Amitai, because we're live on the 8th of September at the Leicester Square Theatre in London. I think most of the tickets are gone now, but maybe some of them haven't. And or if you become a Leicester Square Theatre member, I think you can get special tickets. I'd be really surprised if any existing Leicester Square Theatre venue members were also avid fans of the podcast. So there's an opportunity there. There's a fourth wall related opportunity there. A reminder: you must be 14 or over, because those are the rules. Anyway, a good segue for me. Thank you, Amitai. But of course, the sad Italian news I was referring to was as follows. I'm reading from The Athletic now. Italy have won the World Cup on 4 occasions, most recently in 2006, of course. But I believe, now I'm no longer, that was the bit where I was reading, no longer reading. I believe they have become the first winner to then immediately not qualify for the next 3 tournaments. Is that right? Or no, to not qualify for 3 tournaments. Yeah, absolutely
I
terrible.
think you could maybe have worded that better, but
There's so many things I could have done better about the start of this show. Of course, this was the squad with Gattuso, Gattuso's manager. They've not progressed past the group stage since their 2006 triumph, and they haven't qualified for the tournament since 2014. Gennaro Gattuso said, as his quote from last night, he said, "We needed this for ourselves, for Italy, for our sport. A blow like this is hard to take," he said. I mean, we talked a little bit about Italy not qualifying recently. It seemed as though, looking at those FIFA World Cup qualifiers, that they might be the strongest team there and probably arguably should win. They lost to Bosnia last night, which was quite an unexpected defeat. I mean, it's sort of crazy, isn't it? Does anyone have any opinions, anything to say about Italy not qualifying again?
I think it's incredible that the last time they played at the World Cup was the Suarez bite game. That is like, I mean, think about where that is in the grand football pantheon.
Totally.
I think it's remarkable they seem to do well at the Euros every time that crops up, and the World Cup they just fundamentally struggle to qualify for. I can't really see what the difference is, but it strikes me that maybe it's something to do with like the manage. I feel like it's probably to do with the managers. They've just not picked the right one, apart from when they won the Euros in England.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I suppose I'm slightly an expert on this. I feel like I'm looking at John, and John's going to have an answer for me.
Who is the right manager for the Italian national team? Because I feel like Gennaro Gattuso isn't necessarily the wrong manager, right? Like, if when it comes to I was going to say Italian football, international football, often it feels like picking someone who can do the basics, but also is a sort of iconic representation of the nation.
Yeah, I think so. I think international football is just a completely different beast, isn't it, to the domestic game now? And I think what you need as a coach of a national team is to have like a few build-up ideas, ideas about what you're going to do when you're defending high, low and medium, and how you're going to move between those things, a bit of a different profile in every position, and then a few game changes. And I think get that in place, and then it's like man management, tournament management. I think that's it. And I think the requirements, they're obviously still high, but they're very different, I think, to what's required in the domestic game. But I think in this instance, it's pretty clear that Luis Suarez, his bite was influential. That's what it was.
He's infected the nation.
Infected them.
Sort of vampiric curse
Yeah,
on them.
that's right.
There you go. Well, Turkey made it though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Great.
We're going to the World Cup, which is very exciting.
I hear they're dark horses.
Some have said that we are the surprise package of this tournament. The first time Colin Miller told me this stat this morning, which I didn't know.
Colin Millar.
Sorry.
Thank you.
That Turkey have apparently only qualified once for the World Cup before. I don't know if that's true, but the last time they got to the World Cup, They came third. So who knows?
That's right.
Maybe again.
Did they dropped into the USA's group,
Believe so, yeah.
which makes that group a little tricky, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does look like a group that I think on paper Turkey should fancy themselves in, which does feel good.
I feel like, knowing a few Turkish people, I feel like they'd fancy themselves in any group.
Yeah, that's true.
Surely you can't fancy yourself going into a group where you had to go through the qualifiers to get in.
Look what you've got. Look what you've got. But this is a thing that makes, I think...
Who else have you got in that group? The USA?
Australia. I know that Australia had like a tricky start to their qualifying campaign, mainly because I read a piece about it this morning.
And Paraguay as well. Okay, yeah, I mean,
Looking good.
why not? You could win that group.
Yeah, and then win the tournament. Easy. So, but
It's so
I
hard
think...
to know who's good, isn't it? In the World Cup now?
It is.
I don't know
I feel
who's
like
good.
is.
Wait. I think Spain are good.
France.
France.
If
France
you
feel like they
didn't
got a lot
know
of
about
players.
Italy and someone
You'd
said
think
Italy,
Italy
you'd
were
be like, well,
good.
Italy will be good.
Having said that, though, we did last week when we talked about Italy, we looked through their squad, and it's not that good. It is actually...
But you look at some of the
also-
teams who have gone. Like, it's a 48-team tournament this year, which makes it
Oh, I
even
mean,
more
yeah.
embarrassing that they haven't got in.
They
Like,
should be there.
Yeah,
but
the
it's
tournament
not
was
as good as the
also
Italy
stop
teams
this.
we remember.
Sure.
is what I'm saying.
But if there may be a dearth of talent, but it's not like as bad as it has been in the previous teams that didn't qualify. I know there's obviously a Euros winning side in between, but like the team that didn't make it to 2022 was after that generation that had won the Euros. There was a lot of like players in 2020. It was like the one last stand kind of thing, and they did it. But this team has a lot of good players, a lot of young players, like and also I think players like DeMarco is one of the players of the season in Serie A. Players are important players for Premier League teams. Like it's a bit of a shock they haven't. And also, if you look at their group, obviously the group before the playoffs, they had a golden generation Norway team, which is unfortunate to come up against them. But you'd still think that they should have been able to maybe make a better fist of it than they did. And it's quite disappointing for them.
What's golden generation in Norwegian?
Oh, good question.
It is quite funny that Italy have been abject for 2 decades, and yet they made one appearance to make sure England didn't win the Euros. So
Well, their only win since winning the 2006 World Cup at any World Cup is when they beat England in 2014.
wow.
So yeah,
Gilden generation. It's less
Gilden,
exciting
that's
than I
nice.
thought it would be. Let's just listen to this.
Gyllengenerasjon.
Oh, you just what you said exactly.
Yeah,
the
that's
same
very
as you
different.
pronounced
Like it,
it there.
One more
yeah.
time.
Gyllengenerasjon.
Julian generation. Oh, the Norway's Julian generation. Of course, it sounds like a man named Julian.
It sounds like a championship player, doesn't he?
It absolutely
Julian
does.
Generation.
There we go. Well, there was more news, of course, from yesterday, and this is also from Colin Millar, a name I will enforce the world to say.
Is that how you say it?
Yes, that's how you say it. Yeah,
Okay. Fine.
yeah. That's not how Colin says it,
Oh,
but
right.
that's how we say it.
He's saying
here.
it wrong.
Colin Millar.
Yeah.
Anyway, Colin Millar writes in The Athletic, Tottenham Hotspur have confirmed the appointment of Roberto De Zerbi as their new head coach. The 46-year-old Italian has signed a, quote, long-term contract with the North London club. I feel like you have to shout that when you say long-term contract. And his first match in charge will be the Premier League trip to Sunderland on April the 12th. Spurs sources say that De Zerbi's teams... terms, sorry. I mean, also,
say
this kind of works also, though, because what I was about to say was De Zerbi's teams run for 5 years. His terms also run for 5 years. That's what Spurs sources say. The Athletic reported on Monday that Tottenham had proposed a significant financial package to De Zerbi, which would make him one of the highest paid managers in the Premier League. He is tasked in the short term with saving the club from potential relegation. I feel as though there's some paradoxes here in these paragraphs.
Weird thing to sort of end that on, isn't it? To be like, his job is to make sure they don't get relegated. It sort of seems, I don't know, does he have a job description? Is that like written into the contract?
I would hope they have expressed that to him. I think that's important. I don't
think
know
so
what
too.
they're saying.
Just to
But
clarify, Roberto, as you sat here, we would quite like you to avoid relegation this season.
very important, I think. Very important.
First task on the...
But presumably he's going to get a hefty bonus if they stay up.
I mean, well, listen. I think if he keeps Spurs up, then he deserves everything he gets, doesn't he? He really does. We talked about this a little bit on Monday, the possibility of it. We also referenced, Colin did referenced that there are Spurs supporters groups who are not entirely in favour of this move for reasons that while at Marseille, Roberto De Zerbi was very supportive of Mason Greenwood. So there are some Spurs fans and fan groups that are uncomfortable about that, and we're in opposition to the move as a result of that. We didn't really talk about the football side of it at all because on Monday it hadn't been confirmed. John, I mean, I suppose split this question into two. The first one is he's an unusual choice of someone for the immediate short-term requirement, and not like a definite certainty that Spurs will stay up with bringing in a manager like him. Not that could have necessarily been found with anyone. But the second thing is that he does seem like while combustible is the word that's come up with him many, many times before. He's a very interesting choice for Spurs. I'm quite excited if they stay up in the Premier League to see what they will turn into, and I'm curious what you think if his football will suit their existing squad or if they need a lot of work in the summer, provided they remain in the league.
Yeah, it's a weird one because it feels as though what's happened here is they've looked in the coaching market and been like, who is the best coach?
Yeah.
As though coaching is just a thing that you do and all coaches do the same thing. And obviously different coaches have different specialisms and have different styles and have the ability to do different things. And to me, I saw all of the sort of tactics content dropping yesterday. Everyone obviously has had it all stored up on their hard drives, ready to drop as soon as the news was announced. And everyone's sort of asking the question: oh, can De Zerbi get the team playing in his way in the short amount of games? Mm-hmm. And I sort of feel as though that's just the wrong question to be asking about this approach for the final 7 games, right? Because the issue with Spurs has been that they can't defend well enough to give themselves a nice platform for their attack to build on.
Yes.
And so that, for me, the big question is like, will Roberto De Zerbi's Spurs be able to defend well enough to survive in the Premier League?
I mean, what will he even do in the next 7 games? Because I don't think it's going to be telling Fontaine to, hey, stand on the ball for 5 minutes at the back there. Like, probably not that, right? It's probably try not to concede any goals and score one.
Yeah, and the underlying principles behind what De Zerbi has done in the past is developing a very efficient way for players, regardless of the level, often raises those players above where you might think their level is. So, there's Telegraph articles out there with Lewis Dunk saying things like, when Roberto De Zerbi arrived, he completely changed the way I think about the game. And he sort of has that Pep Guardiola quality of being able to coach the details of in-possession play to a level that raises those players above where you thought they would be.
Yeah.
That seems to be fairly low down the list of what Spurs will need in the immediate term. Okay. I suppose the bigger worry I would have is that if you look at some of the defending that his team have done in the last couple of seasons, they can be very open at times. And
are you talking about Marseille or Brighton as well?
Marseille, yeah. I mean, at Brighton there were questions about for example, rest defense, right? So if you play this fairly direct. And I say fairly direct, it's you sort of play slow to then play fast. Mm.
And by rest defence, you mean that when you have the ball and you're attacking, how many players do you leave back in case you lose it?
Or the decisions that you make in order to mitigate the problems that you could have if you lost the ball. Yeah. So for example, during his second season at Brighton, his teams had tended to have 2 centre-backs, and then the 2 fullbacks would tuck inside alongside one of the central midfielders, and that was their sort of rest defensive shape.
A 2-3.
A 2-3, and then they flipped that in the second season. They started doing a 3-2, so with 3 in the back line and then 2 players ahead of them. Right. So little things like that, where it was clear that in the Premier League you weren't going to be able to be as aggressive with your positioning as you were. Yeah. So he switched things up.
And my immediate thought also is that Spurs don't really have fullbacks who are naturally occupy those central positions.
I mean, the Spurs squad is a mess as it is, I would say.
Right.
And that's, again, another question. But, I think this is already getting, so far ahead of where they need to be.
Because it's about the next 7 games.
Exactly. And for me, it's not even about, what kind of rest defence. For me, it's just basic. It's defensive principles. How quickly can you get the team in a structure that is working well enough? Backline behaviour stuff, all the stuff that isn't really that sexy.
Yeah.
But all teams just do it as a given.
Yeah.
It's
this
what
is
they
John's
get
pickup
drilled.
line now. This is what he says to people of interest in bars or on chat. I do all the stuff that's not sexy very well. All of the fundamentals,
basics,
all the basics. I've got them down. If you want to stay, don't want to get relegated, pick me. If you want to win the league.
But I think that's the important thing here is that what you need to do with that group of players is get them doing the basics again and having those principles instilled in them so that it becomes like second nature. Is he the best coach to do that? Probably not.
Well, no, but he is a firecracker, like a I imagine he seems like someone who would be amazing to be around. Whether that's negatively or positively, I don't know. That's a separate thing. But he's not someone that doesn't elicit reactions. And really, the main thing that Spurs squad needs, apart from players to return from injury, is to sort of be, I don't know, shocked into a different place than they were previously. I kind of believe he could do that.
I thought it was quite interesting the other day when I did a very, very quick look at his Wikipedia page and saw that in the 2 jobs where he's taken over a club in the middle of a season, or not in the middle of the season, after the start of the season.
Right.
First one, he lost 7 games in a row and picked up no points at home.
Yeah.
Second one, he was relegated.
Right.
Admittedly...
So what was the second one? Palermo?
First one was Palermo.
Right.
Second one was Benevento. Like, it's right at the start of his managerial career. How's he changed since then?
How many games did he have with Benevento? Do you remember? What point in the season did
Benevento was appointed in October.
Okay. Right.
And Palermo, he was appointed in September and was sacked in November.
With enough time to assume that he could maybe turn the team to his style of play. The question would, in my mind, would be, is he really going to try and do that with 7 games left?
It is worth saying that with Benevento, they were plummeting. They were basically gone. Right. And I remember at the time when it happened that everyone was actually quite impressed with him because he did get a tune out of them in that period. So that's maybe worth saying.
You know that they don't need to sing though. That mainly they just need to play
exactly.
football.
That's the big topic at hand, isn't it? Because maybe they could have brought in a brilliant choir master, but they still need to do those defensive principles, Joe.
I'm trying to think of any Italian song. What's an Italian song?
Nessun Dorma, anything by Andrea Bocelli.
Of course.
It's quite a few.
Volare.
Of course. Yeah, well, more fool me. There we go. Okay, well, that's De Zerbi at Spurs. I'm sure we'll be talking about it much more over the next 7 game weeks, and we'll see where De Zerbi ends up. I feel as though Spurs' prospects in the Championship have just got a little bit better, haven't they? Can you imagine? We were talking to our friend Nathan, whose name I now remember, the other night, and he was saying... he's actually quite excited to see a De Zerbi Spurs team boss the Championship. That'll be fun.
Just to say, I do think there's a world in which that's the strategy. Like, not this is not an
strategy.
This is not an informed opinion.
Okay,
but
just to be clear, it's the opinion of a managing editor that works for the Athletic. It's not informed.
It's not informed by like anything beyond the fact that like if you look at De Zerbi's situation and Spurs' situation, could you as Spurs offer him a contract that basically, it's for 5 years. We're going to pay you this much money, and if we get relegated, we're going to trust you to pick the team up next season and get promoted from the Championship at the first attempt. Like it's not beyond the realms of like possibility.
No.
That's the approach here.
It just seems weird to me. Like, if they go down, surely he doesn't stick around. Surely.
Do you not think?
Is it just a purely financial consideration?
It wasn't. I can't remember where I read this. So there's a possibility now that I'm going to be spreading false information. As a managing editor of the Athletic, you'll have to stop me. But wasn't there a lot of talk yesterday about the fact that there isn't a relegation, or there wasn't thought to be a relegation release clause in his contract, which means that obviously he can't just leave, but also that the club can't immediately get rid of him if they get relegated, so as not to pay those wages.
I'm sure that Igor Tudor didn't have a relegation clause.
No,
a clause in his contract.
He left mutually as well.
Igor Tudor would have only been signed as on a temporary basis for the rest of the season.
He still left before that contract was up, right? That's my point.
Yeah, but that's because both parties wanted that to happen.
Yeah, because it was such a toxic environment. If the same thing happened in the next 7 games,
sure,
is that there's presumably a world.
Surely he wouldn't, though.
I mean, they would have to pay him a lot of money, right? So,
it would be absolutely. It wouldn't make any sense. I mean, it would have to be so toxic to get rid of him after 7 games and pay him for 5 years.
But he did this at Marseille, right? He did this thing where he's like, he will come out and say, I don't care about the money. I care about the club.
Sure.
And so I'm willing to walk away. And he does have that tempestuosity.
Yeah. Do you think he would have taken the job, though, if he didn't think there was some chance he might be managing in the Championship? I don't think so. He's not stupid.
Sure. But I think lots of us as humans make decisions which we later regret, right? Having been...
John, this is Tifo. This is not the other podcast, our Regretcast, where we talk about things that we regret, although I can't wait again to hear more about your years in university.
There's lots of things we do in life, right, where we think it won't be that bad, and then you get into it and then you're like, oh, it is that bad, I regret this. I can see that happening.
There's also a lot of things, though, that you think it's going to be really bad, and then you get into it and you go, it actually wasn't that bad. And I would say there's more things like that than there are.
Spurs to finish mid-table then, isn't it? Sure.
Okay, anyway, there we go. That was RDZ, Roberto De Zerbi. Welcome back to the Premier League, at least for 7 games. Now, what are we doing on the rest of today's show? Here it is. Here's what we're doing. We are looking back, and we're going to assess the top 20 most expensive summer transfers of 2025, the vast majority of which, of course, were Premier League transfers. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about a bunch of Premier League teams. We're going to assess how their biggest transfers have worked out this season. And at the end, we're going to answer questions such as, which team won the transfer window retrospectively? It's always fun to do it retrospectively. Which teams lost? And, we're going to go through individual players. Who do we think is the best? Who do we think is the worst? Perhaps the most surprising after a season of performances.
Ah.
The audience won't know, John, but something was cut there. And then I asked you to do a random noise. And that was the noise that you did. Thanks very much for that. The first team we're going to talk about on today's show in this format is Liverpool. Perhaps unsurprisingly, because the top 3 most expensive transfers of the summer in 2025 were all Liverpool players. Of course, the most expensive was Alexander Isak. Then there was Florian Wirtz, and then Hugo Ekitike. So I think that the first thing is to establish whether we think these players have been hits or misses. I feel like this might be relatively straightforward in the sense that there's one hit in there, and then there's an injured miss and a sort of miss, right?
Time will tell.
Yeah, I think time will tell applies to 2 of them.
Yeah, Isak as well.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that without going too deep into it, I think that chances are they needed to change the squad as much as they did in the summer. Yeah, and you kind of maybe have to ride through a difficult season because your squad is aging out, and they were like, we need to spend loads of money on some really good players, and Isak basically went on strike. Wirtz was much easier to do. Ekitike was on his way to Newcastle, then went to Liverpool. I would say Isak's a miss, but time will tell. Wirtz sort of in the middle-ish, and then Ekitike is the hit.
Ekitike is so much fun, isn't he?
Yeah, he's great. I think that the Liverpool transfer strategy this summer was really... It's kind of strange in a way because if you look at the squad now, it's last season, I think what was so strong about Liverpool and what made Slot so seamless in transition was it was so obvious all the decisions he made. You knew what they were going to do every week. They were relatively fortunate with injuries, which they haven't been this season at all. But for the most part, they were predictable in a good way, in the sense that there was a sort of a through line between what Slot was doing from game to game. Whereas this season, it's kind of felt like he's been chopping and changing because he's not kind of found the perfect system to put all these players into place. Mm-hmm. So for like Wirtz, for example, I think he's been a little bit difficult to judge because he's played some games at 10, some games on the left, some games at false 9. And that's made him quite difficult to understand how he's been doing. I think he's got better as he's got fitter and understood the Premier League and the physical demands. And I think you can see that in the way he's playing. And he was really good for Germany over the international break as well. And it looks like he's starting to become a player in that Liverpool team who players look to kind of dominate games, which is, I think, what he was signed to do. Ekitike has, I think, almost been a bit of a surprise in terms of how good he is, because when he came in and you saw they were obviously chasing Isak the whole summer, I think the assumption for most people was Ekitike would be competition for Isak, maybe, or maybe they could play together, but no one's really seen how that would work, or Ekitike on the left and that kind of thing.
We felt as though he wouldn't play. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It was almost, I remember thinking it was almost a shame that he didn't end up at Newcastle, because the order of things was that he went to Liverpool first. When they felt as though perhaps they'd missed out on Isak, then Isak became available again.
Yeah, and that for me is what, I know we've said wait and see a bit on Isak, and it's probably harsh to judge him now because he wasn't fit when he came. Almost just as he was getting fit, he got a really long-term injury. But what makes that signing a bit more of a miss for me is the sense that when he does come back, it's not obvious where he's going to fit into the side. And that might seem crazy for a player who's a Premier League record transfer. But if he comes in, then you probably have to maybe shift Ekitike out to the left, or you have to put Wirtz on the left to play Ekitike and Isak together as a 2. Like it doesn't quite make sense. And I feel like that's a running theme with a lot of what Liverpool did over the summer. But
what was his injury? Is it an ACL?
No, broken leg, I think.
It's a broken leg.
Yeah.
He broke his leg scoring as well, and it was like at a point where I guess it felt as though he was maybe turning a corner.
Right. So, and a broken leg isn't one of those ones where they come back and you go, oh, will they ever be the same again? Because it's bone.
I'm not
like Eduardo, he was never really the same after his horrible leg
His
break.
leg kind of shattered though, didn't it?
It did, but the Van de Ven tackle on Isak was pretty awful. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully he'll be back fit and firing.
Okay, John. I guess the question. I mean, we've kind of asked this before, but the question with Liverpool and their transfer market is: do you think Arne Slot should have been expected to get more out of this team, or do you think, as described, like the squad really needed that refresh, and it's very difficult to assimilate everything immediately?
Yeah, I think the squad needed a refresh. I don't think they necessarily did that. They didn't do the refresh they needed.
Right.
I think they were clearly worried about Mohamed Salah, and rightly so, it transpires. And so it almost feels as though they were kind of like, let's keep everything else the same and see if we can refresh that front line. And I think that's where they've gone wrong, because I think we've been saying, I mean, I've been doing the Liverpool sensible transfers for like every window for the last 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, they need centre-backs, they need midfielders, and
Right.
they don't sign centre-backs or midfielders. And they're now in a situation where you've got Virgil van Dijk, who's,
Starting to be exposed, right?
well, coming to the end of his career, like however you look at it,
Yeah.
regardless of how well you think he's performed this season. You've got Konate on the other side, who has not signed a contract and is, thoughts have been going to Real Madrid at times. They've got Leone they brought in as a backup, but he was a sort of young development option, and he's been injured most of the season as well, which leaves them with like Joe Gomez and hope no one else gets injured sort of approach. That's been the situation for a few seasons now for Liverpool. Central midfield, they obviously signed those players back after the season the Klopp season, where they sort of had what Man City had last season. And all of those players sort of felt like they were the same kind of profile. They didn't really have much diversity of profile in there.
Yeah.
And so now you're in this situation where they're like, do they need a proper number 6? Do they, have they got all of the right the players? They've been using Szoboszlai as a right back because they've not really replaced the ball progression they had with Trent Alexander-Arnold. So you can make the argument that Slot has been served a bit of a rough hand in terms of the squad. But at the same time, I think with the players that they have available, it's hard not to feel as though they probably should have done better than they have done. I mean, they've lost an incredible number of games this season. But then on the other hand, I kind of feel like, well, you could argue that they're probably above where they should be, in part because they have that incredible forward line who've dug them out of holes on occasion, right? Yes, you've got Szoboszlai who was already there, but there have been some games where Wirtz has made the difference. Ekitike has definitely got them points when maybe they shouldn't. They had that run at the beginning of the season where they won all of those games in a row, where they were coming back like in the last minute through fairly unlikely goals. And so I don't know, it's hard to really judge what's what with Slot's season. I do think that spending that amount of money and having that little return on investment, that's a very miserable way of putting it, I suppose. But but this is how we think in football now, isn't it? But like, I think putting that half a billion into a club and then being worse for it, I think that some of that has to fall on the coach in some respect.
It's certainly not ideal, is it? No. My final question on Liverpool was, what do we think they need going into the summer? I think maybe you've just answered that, right? Like, they need midfielders, they need centre-backs.
Yeah, I think so. I think they need to... They've sort of been a little bit screwed over by the fact they've got like almost generational players in a couple of positions who have aged way slower than you might expect in those positions, in Van Dijk and Salah, which has, I think, made their task a little bit harder. Yeah. But at the same time, I think there were so many easy routes through, particularly the centre-back approach, where they could have brought other players in and had a succession plan ready, whereas in the event, it could be the case that they need to bring in 2 centre-backs in the summer who are going to be starting level centre-backs.
In fairness, they have got Jeremy Jacquet coming in, I think, which is, I think Slot has said, is part of the succession plan. But there's obvious ones like the Mark Gahey one, which seemed relatively doable last summer, and he's gone on to do really well at City. And you look at that and you think, especially given how poor Konate has been for a lot of the season, that would have made so much sense for them last time.
Even with Jeremy Jacquet, you've still got a player.
I'm laughing because John and I did a quiz the other day. We went to our friends' pub quiz type thing, although it was in a church actually. And we were
church quiz.
It was technically a church quiz, yeah. And there was a team that we were being asked for our quiz name teams at the beginning, and we didn't have one. A team ahead of us called their team Kenny Shackett, after Kenny Jackett, of course. And so we called our team Kenneth Shackett. And then we came 1 point behind them. It was such a shame. We were first in that pub quiz the whole way through, and then due to the formatting of the final round, we finished last.
Was it
embarrassing?
Was it a themed pub quiz?
No, not really. It was Pete South's pub quiz.
It was a themed church quiz.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was sort of dreading it because I was so tired that day, and I didn't want to go to a really busy pub. And then when we showed up and I realised, it's a church function room. It was like the best thing I've ever done. It was so much fun. It was really nice to hang out. It was in central London as well. It's a very unusual experience to be in central London and then sort of be swallowed into this peaceful private
Do you know what?
place.
It felt like being at home. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that like I would never do those sorts of things in London, like go to a church hall and do something, whereas at home I would. And so it weirdly felt like I wasn't in London.
I felt like you were having like a spiritual moment there. I always into a church and it felt like being at home.
It reminded me, because there's something very specific about a church function room. I wonder if this is the same with people of other religions in other places of worship also. If you've got that little room off the side of the temple or the mosque that's just used for, I don't know, your community thing or the whatever event. It reminded me of being... I went to church when I was very young. It reminded me of Christingle. You know that one we walk around with the oranges?
Yeah, that was great.
And the candle. And do you know what this is?
So I only found out about this recently.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of function rooms, absolutely, the synagogue has a function room because you have your post-service wine in there. You have your bar mitzvahs in there.
Lovely.
Many actually have two different function rooms because you have like you'll have the smaller thing after a standard service, and then you'll have like the big parties, the weddings, the bar mitzvahs.
So when you have an event and you say it's in they say which one you say the big one, they go, oh, it's in the big function room. Like, how exciting! And it's graduated.
Sometimes on the high holy days, they even have overspill into the function room.
Wow!
So
that's nice. You've got to love a function room, haven't you? It's a shame more other things don't have function rooms.
Yeah,
you know,
keyboard has a room for a function.
What's keyboard?
The FN button. That stands for function.
That's only Apple products, though, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah.
There's no function button on it.
Is there an atheist function room, or is it that's just like your local council building? Is it the community centre?
Yeah, I would say that would be it.
Yeah, I've been to the Irish Centre in Camden, Kentish Town. They've got a function room. Pretty good function room in there.
I used to live around the corner from that.
Did you?
Yeah. I used to walk past it every day.
Do you ever use the function room?
I didn't.
Well, you're time waster. Big time waster. There we go. That's Liverpool. I bet Man United have got some good function rooms, haven't they? At Old Trafford or Carrington or wherever it is that they function. Let's do Man United now, because within the top. I'll tell you what. I'll go back to this. Number 4 on the list is Benjamin Šeško. Number 5 is Brian Mbeumo. Number 6 is a rogue non-Premier League transfer. Do you remember which one it was?
Ooh.
It was to Galatasaray.
What, Osimhen?
Yeah, it was Victor Osimhen. He was the 6th most expensive move in the summer. Number 7 is Nick Woltemade as a Newcastle team we'll come back to talk about. And then number 8 is Matthias Cunha. So I think Senna Lommers is not in the top 20. He was another player as well. This is where we hit the kind of vague outer wall of the format and we go, are we talking about the players that weren't in the top 20? Are we only talking about the top 20? But for now, let's stick to Šeško, Mbeumo and Cunha. We'll play the hit or miss game. I'm going to say, for me, I think it's a hit. Amitai?
Yeah, as someone who doesn't necessarily like seeing Man U win games of football.
Of course, yeah.
It's slightly worrying that they've all kind of worked. But then I always find with Man U, they kind of work in this weird sort of universe where I'll hear that they're doing well, and then by the time I've really checked in on them,
right,
they're doing badly again.
Sure.
But these three,
you're just holding off on checking in all season, are you? Well, that's the thing.
No, it's just generally. But then Šeško, I feel like he started badly. He's doing well.
Yeah,
that's kind of the vibe there.
He's been a little quiet for they haven't played much. That's the other problem.
They've used him quite smartly, I think, under Carrick, right? And I guess you could argue that there's games where they probably should have started him. I think the West Ham game stands out as one where it was clear that they were going to be sort of playing against a bit more of a block, and so it might have been good to have an out-and-out striker rather than to play Mbeumo a lot in those positions. But I think he scored a ton of goals under Carrick, hasn't he?
Yeah, and Mbeumo and Cunha kind of goes back to the old Man U policy of just kind of picking 2 of the really good Premier League players and signing them, and just that it probably helps with the whole thing at Man U, which is the sheer level of pressure and the expectation that they're like, oh, we should win the Premier League, but we have nowhere near the quality of players for that. So that helps the fact that they're probably quite aware of it all.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think to reset the expectations at the beginning of the season. I'm going to use. Do you remember Tim Spears published that piece where he ranked every transfer?
Which we're doing again.
Are we doing it again?
100%.
I hope it's as successful this time. I feel I was going to tease him more, but then I thought we probably need to invite Tim Spears on so that I can tease him in person about some of his choices. But I do think I do respect where he placed the Man United players, because I think the temptation with Man United is to think, okay, they're a big team and they've bought some of the best players from other teams. They must be good. Tim Spears sort of went for the opposite. He I think he ranked Cunha in the 70s of the
Cunha
best.
was like 130 or something.
Cunha was really low, and Burmo and Shesko were in the 70s. They were quite
they're
low.
not 30s.
30s,
We should
maybe.
probably look this up.
Anyway, he didn't think. Basically, he thought they were going to be mediocre, which I think at the time was a reasonable guess based on the fact that every time Man United have bought a player in the last 10 years, it seems to have gone very badly, and those players seem to have become worse. Whereas I feel as though with these three players, and with Senna Lommers as well, I don't think that's happened. That feels like quite the culture shift. And even in Amorim time, it wasn't as though those players in particular were performing poorly.
No, and I think maybe it helped that there wasn't this sense of like, it's that phrase that comes up every so often. It's the United are back.
Yeah.
That's the thing that has come up. I feel like every summer since Ferguson left, right? Probably after the Moyes season. When Moyes was there, no one was like United are back because they just won the Premier League.
That's true. There was a pause for a period while it was simply Pog back,
Yes.
and then after that it was just Man United are back again.
Yeah, but it feels like signing players that well known. They were Premier League ready, but they weren't like crazy exciting.
Yeah.
And actually, if anything, and that probably reflected in where Tim Spears put them in the ranking,
Yes.
probably actually benefited the sense around the club because no one got too ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe footballers are smarter than that when it comes to like how they manage their own expectations. But like I do think genuinely sometimes like if the vibes are too strong, it can actually damage a team's like performance in a season.
Yeah. That makes sense. What do we think they need going into the summer? Where are they like now?
I think they need still midfielders. Obviously, Casemiro's going to leave. Kobbie-Mainoo's done really well, but he'll need players to support him once they have more games next season, because you expect them to get into the Champions League from this point. They're not going to have another 40-game season. They need a much bigger squad. So yeah, depth.
They might go from a 40-game season to potentially like a 65-game season.
Possible,
right?
yeah.
Like, that's actually a huge
It's
swing.
a huge leap. And I think if you look at the teams who are fielding with that dealing with that kind of season this season, like Liverpool, City, Arsenal, they've gone through a lot of players and a lot of injuries. Man United haven't had that as much recently, so probably that. I think right back is a position where they might want to look to improve. Dallow's done well.
You hate Diogo Dallo.
I don't hate Diogo Dallo.
That's the word on the street. Kaya hates Diogo Dallo.
I actually really like Diogo Dallo, but I think that he could be given
Because he's a fullback and you're an Arsenal fan.
Exactly. Well, no, because
He's not big enough to play for Arsenal,
Yeah,
John.
well, he's a versatile fullback. That's why I like him.
That's
So,
true.
can play left back, which is key.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
How
need-
many players can truly play left back and right back? By the way, I think that's quite rare.
Should I tell you what never happens? A left back who can play right back.
Yeah, that never happens. It's because I'm left-handed. You asked Amitai before if he was, and I'm so un-right-handed. If that I feel as though are you all right-handed?
I am.
Yeah.
I feel as though what you could do in terms of writing, neatness of handwriting with your left hand would be far, far superior to what I could do with my right hand.
How's your right foot?
Terrible, dreadful. I'm completely. Do you remember how Rafa Nadal was like 10 stone heavier on one side of his body because his left arm and his left thigh were so much stronger. That's like me, but without being an athlete.
Yeah, I think my left hand writing wise is a lot worse than my right hand. My left foot is probably comparable.
Really?
Well, not quite as good, but like I can pass the ball fairly decently with my left.
Wow. Sounds like you might be a little bit ambidextrous.
What about left brain, right brain?
I've got a fantastic mix of both.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What I'm really missing is heart. I think at least that's what my wife says to me on an almost nightly basis.
Just for the record, he had Mbeumo 34, Shesko 35. And
So he had them in the 30s.
And then Cunha 76.
Cunha in the
You're right,
Cunha
he
in the
was in the
70s. There we go. Okay, well, I think we might come back to Manchester United because I think there's a shout that they could be named the winner of the market. I don't know. We'll come back to those categories a little bit later. We are going to next. We're gonna play a rondo, but before we get there, you simply must listen to an advertisement. Well, welcome back from that delightful advertisement. I hope it was fun for you. And it's time now to Rondo. Amitai, have you played the Rondo before?
I don't know if I have played the Rondo.
Here's how it works, okay? The Rondo works like this. I ask you guys a question that has multiple correct answers. You answer correctly in a circle. If you cannot answer for an indeterminate amount of time, but one that I decide, you're out of the game. If you give me an incorrect answer, you are out of the game. The final person remaining within the game is named Rondo Del Rey. Okay? Cool. That's it. And today's category is based on the news, because we're joined by a true newsman. Italy played and won their last knockout round game in a World Cup in 2006. So what I'm looking for is international teams that have won a knockout stage game of football in a World Cup finals since Italy did. Okay, and just to make it a little clearer, we're excluding anything else from 2006. There technically weren't any new teams that did it the day after anyway, but we're going from 2010 onwards. There are 17 correct answers to this quiz. And Amitai, I'm going to start with you, please.
Spain.
Yes. John?
Brazil.
Brazil. Correct. Kaya?
Germany.
Germany are in there. Of course they are. Back to you, Amitai.
England.
England, of course, England are in there. Yeah, that's right.
Belgium.
Belgium, yeah, Belgium won one.
Argentina.
Argentina, well, they won the World Cup, so they definitely won one. And as a reminder, really, all we're talking about is teams that won in the first knockout round. Because if they won a semi-final, they definitely won a knockout game.
France.
France, of course, have won.
Croatia.
Croatia have won one.
Sweden.
Sweden have won one. They have. Amitai?
The US.
The USA have not.
No.
They have not won a knockout stage game in that time. Okay, so you're out of the game. But well done for playing. John?
The Netherlands.
The Netherlands, of course, have won one. Kaya?
Morocco.
Morocco have won one. That's right. You're taking some of the hard ones here. You're making me think that we might complete this. John?
I want to say Colombia because they played England, but I think there was a knockout round before that, so I'm going to say Colombia.
There was. Congratulations. Kaya?
Ghana.
Ghana are in there. They, of course,
Yeah.
beat the USA in that famous game in 2010. That's one of the best games in World Cup history, I think. That was so much fun.
That was up there.
John, back to you. There are 5 teams remaining. And one of them you'll kick yourself for not getting. This is too much dead air, so I'm going to have to start counting you down from 5, 4.
Poland.
Poland are not in there. They're not in there, buddy. You're out. Okay, so Kaya, all you have to do is get this correct to retain, not to retain, to regain the Rondo Del Rey crown, which currently is held by Ruben.
I thought I'd handed you an open goal by saying Ghana, because who did Ghana beat?
Uruguay.
Yeah.
Uruguay are in there.
Yeah.
They are in there, they are. Also, you could have had Portugal, you could have had Russia, you could have had Paraguay, who beat Japan on penalties in 2010, and you could have had Costa Rica, who beat Greece on penalties in 2014. But Kaya, congratulate... Oh, sorry, I've hit my microphone for the second time. The second time! A professional broadcaster. Kaya, you have won.
Thank you.
He's regained...
Thanks, guys.
This is kind of... He's like the Pep Guardiola of the Rondo, isn't he?
Well, I've got to win one trophy, so...
It's absolutely crazy. How about that? Well done everyone involved, except for you, Amitai. You were worse than I thought you should have been, and I hope to get a better performance next time you're here. Okay? Good Lord. Now, let's continue with our roundup of Premier League 2025 transfers. The next team I think we should talk about is Newcastle. Okay, and as I mentioned, we have 3 Newcastle players in the top 20. I've already mentioned that in at number 7 is Nick Voltemade, who cost £64 million. But beyond that, we do also have in at 18 and 19, we've got Anthony Elanga, who cost £52 million, and we've got Johan Wissa, who cost £50 million. Let's play the game hit or miss with those 3. Amitai?
I think it's quite obvious that the first 2 are misses. I think Voltemade. Yeah, I think that they've.
Can he not be a hit for being just cool though?
Yeah, I mean he's super cool.
I really like his whole play style and his height.
Yeah, I think the fundamental issue. I mean, look, he's tall, he's cool. On any other situation,
me and Kyra just high five.
Is this for being tall or for being
cool?
Yeah, he's tall.
And in any other situation,
in any other situation, that's all you need to.
Yeah.
That's all you need to be.
Exactly.
But in football,
let's high five one more time, Kyra. Yeah. What are you saying over there?
High five because we're so high.
Mr. Speaker, we are so tall, Mr. Speaker.
The thing with Walter is that
Yeah.
he doesn't fit the system.
Right.
And they like to play high intensity, like pressing football. It's the way it works for Newcastle and the way they succeed.
Would Ekatike have fit the system?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
I'd love to see Ekatike at Newcastle. I'm really sad that he didn't go there. I feel like there is the correct alternative timeline when he did move there. And I just think he would have.
You think we're on the wrong timeline?
I think I might be on the wrong timeline.
This is the moment that the timeline split with
Yeah.
Ekatike's transfer to
That's
Liverpool rather than
absolutely
Newcastle.
it. Yeah. What's her name? Didn't get on a tube, and then now
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow didn't get on a tube. I watched that the other day again for the first time in 20 years. I was like, it is an abysmal film.
Oh, really?
Sliding
Which-
Doors.
Oh.
It's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
So
It's-
she doesn't get. So if I don't get on a tube one morning, then my whole life will be different. Is that what it's saying?
well,
Yeah.
so that's the premise of the
I
film.
did consider not getting on the tube to work this morning.
I
was like,
consider it
what's the
every
point?
morning.
Like, I
You
could
know,
just,
every
let
morning.
the door slide.
Yeah. And what's the worst that would happen?
Nothing.
Probably nothing would happen.
I'd just say there's problems on the Northern Line. I'm not coming into work
Right.
today.
And I'd say, please get a
So,
taxi.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd say no, and then
Right, yeah.
and then you'd fire me. And
Well, I
then-
can't fire you. You don't work for me.
That's true.
You might get played in a film by Gwyneth Paltrow. That'd be pretty bad for you.
Well, I think she would do a good job on me.
Yeah.
Slightly questionable casting.
I'd say so.
Who would you play as me in a film?
Who would I play as you in the film?
Who would you cast?
Who would I cast
me?
as you? Jason Statham.
Okay.
You've got no retort. No retort. Nothing to say about that.
That's
no?
quite good.
Who
I
would
think-
you go for you?
God.
Would you go for Sean Bean?
Nick Voltemada, I think.
I was actually going to say the resemblance is
The Sean.
Sean Bean?
no Walter
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I think you've got a bit of Sean Bean about you. Young
Have I?
Sean Bean. Sean Bean in Game of Thrones when he's got long hair.
Yeah.
He's a bit old at that point, but like
I've not seen Game of Thrones, which I suppose won't be a surprise to any listeners. But I can say
it's just remarkable.
It's remarkable. I don't know how he's been alive.
I don't know what he's been doing his whole life.
You know,
Like,
I know what he's been doing his whole life because so one other thing we did in the church function room the other day was we checked each other's screen
Where's this going?
screen time average. We checked each other's screen
God,
time
yeah.
averages. And John and I, although, listen, John cheated the system a bit because he's got an Android phone which only tells him how much he's used his phone that day. And we were only at 8, 9 p.m. and I know how much he uses his phone at night. So it said 3 hours for him at that point. I think he's more of a 4-hour person. Mine was 3 because I'm a good boy. I mean, that's still far too much. Ruben Pender came in, I honestly wasn't expecting it at all. He was 6 hours.
That's average as well, right? So you can complain about me having 3 that day, but that could have been a heavy day.
It could have been a heavy day for you. I mean, it wasn't because
I
you
mean,
were in
that
the
was still
office.
half of his.
My suspicion is it was a light day for
Yeah,
you. But he was at
maybe.
6 hours. And then, Kaya, you checked
just
the other day and you
trying
were
to get it up again
Yeah.
to
at,
check.
again. What are you at, Amitai?
Well, apparently 3 hours and 6 minutes average. I
Okay,
thought it'd
there
be
you go.
worse than
That's
that.
good.
No, that's pretty good.
My daily average this week already is 5 hours and 3 minutes.
Oh, wow. Well, but that's
This
what
is
he's doing.
generational thing.
It
Too
is.
much.
And there's only, how old are you, Kaya?
28.
Right, so there's only 7 years between us, but all you have to do is go down to like I didn't have a smartphone until I was an adult. I had a Motorola Razr. I remember that was great fun. I had the Pebble one, that was fun also. But these weren't devices that you could spend time on. They were devices.
It
I
did
played a lot of
take you
Snake.
6 hours to send a text. That's
That's true, and I did play a lot of Snake. You're absolutely right. But I didn't really have social media either. Like a bit of Facebook, a bit of whatever, but you had to be on the computer. I honestly think in the time it's taken for him to turn 18 after me, it just means you spend double the amount of time I do on a phone.
It made it sound like he was that started off at the same level as you. It took ages to get
He
to
was so
18.
slow getting there. He really was. No, but I think that's why you haven't seen Game of Thrones or seen any good films.
I feel like I've seen bits of it through TikTok clips,
right.
which is
goodness.
probably the way people consume.
You should try
some
watching
shows now.
films on your phone.
Oh, that's like an
'Cause then you
affront to Scorsese. He'd hate you for that.
Yeah, but they're actually filmed for that nowadays,
Absolutely
which
not.
which
Yeah,
is
true.
which I hate. I absolutely despise the fact they've like the latest season of Stranger Things, which is a show I enjoy, which I think is probably not very cool of me, but I like that
Sure.
show.
I've seen
I
Stranger
I
Things.
really like Stranger Things. The last
Yep.
season is so obviously filmed to be watched on your phone.
Right.
It really upset me because you then look at clips from the first season,
Yeah.
which is filmed like a prestige TV show,
Yeah.
and it's like brilliantly shot. This one, it's shot as if it's like I can't really explain it, but all the characters are central on the screen.
Producer James is nodding in the booth as well.
It's actually I was so angry at how that show was shot. I don't think I get angry over many things, but that really annoyed me.
You got a comment, James?
Yeah, I think I heard Matt Damon recently. He said that films are now being made where they have to constantly give exposition to remind the audience of the plot because everyone's just glued to their phone.
Everyone's double
And there is no
screening,
plot. There's no plot anyway, but.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of watching films on my phone though, and I completely disagree that there's anything wrong with it because I hold my phone this close to my face, so it's basically like I'm in the cinema, and I listen to them with overhead headphones on, so I'm actually kind of hearing it better than I would do if it was on a big TV in my room, and the screen is proportionally the same distance
And you go
to my eyes.
2 times speed as well, right, to get through it quickly.
That's you. God, John's always watching things at 2 times speed. It's horrible.
This is maybe the counter argument to me only being on my phone for 3 hours is that actually I consume the same amount of content as Ruben. I just do it twice as quickly.
I saw a horrible thing on a flight recently, which was I actually saw it with a few different younger people, where in between bits of dialogue or action, they skip forward in films by 10 seconds. They just they won't wait to watch the scenery.
I've had to train various people on this when I've been watching a film and they think they can talk to me when there's no talking happening. And I say, you realise the film's still happening just because there's no talking happening. Shush up. The reason I put this on is so that you stop talking to me. And then we got married.
I think this is why you think that I am on my phone all the time, because I only go on my phone when I'm bored, and when I'm with you, I'm bored, so I'm on my phone more.
Yeah,
I think it's just.
I have Stanley Tucci play you in a film of your life, and that's actually a compliment, isn't it? Anyway, Newcastle, none of them were first choice. That's what we were talking about. Voltemada, Visser, and Elanga. None of them were first choice, right? They've obviously had a bad season as well. What's gone wrong for Eddie Howe, do you think, John?
I mean, it's the same sort of thing that has
He's
happened.
spending too much time on his phone.
Yeah, double speeding everything. I mean, that is the way they play, and I think there's probably a profound point to be made about this, that the rest of the Premier League is potentially caught up with what Newcastle were doing almost as an edge case, and everyone is playing intense direct football now. As a result, they probably are getting less upside from it. The other thing is we've seen them fluctuate depending on whether or not they're in the Champions League or not, and I think that's just the reality of being, with no disrespect, a middle-class team in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And they've not been able to spend the money that they maybe needed to retain the same level of intensity throughout the whole, I guess, every other season cadence that they're in. And I think that's pretty obvious this season in particular. I think we've talked a lot about on various shows about how Newcastle have a very different home versus away. And I think, again, that talks to the level of intensity they can consistently hit. So, it sort of feels as though the Eddie Howe project, it felt almost like early Jurgen Klopp project at the beginning.
Yes.
And the question we always had was, can he develop in the way that Klopp did? And it just doesn't seem as though that has been the case. And so, I suppose, given all of the above, there are people now questioning whether or not Newcastle should move on and bring someone else in. But I think a big part of it is that, and I guess adds to the fact that they brought in 3 players who haven't really have all been misses, and in part that's because they've been gazumped by other clubs, right? And again, that comes down to them being a middle-class team. So it's almost like everything has machinated against them this season.
Okay. I mean, it seems also we've heard kind of rumours and reports that Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes might not be there next season. Also, good news though, Amitai, they have sold their stadium to themselves, haven't they? So presumably that's a good thing, although also it might not be a good thing.
I think it's a great sign of financial health as a general. I think the interesting thing about Newcastle is they're probably shifting into the next phase of this project, this ownership project, however you want to sort of view it, in that they now need to get to the point where they become good sellers.
Right.
And that's the next trick. So they sold Isak in the summer, which creates this incredible PSR headroom going forward because of PSR is not going to exist from this summer on, so it's a bit more complicated than
What are they calling it now?
It was going to be squad cost rule.
So is that SCR?
Yeah, SCR.
That's just not as much fun to say as PSR.
Within 2 years, you will be SCRing with the best of them.
You think so?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, thank you for your confidence in me.
Would you have even known what PSR was 2 years ago?
I'm sort of still saying FFP, to be honest. I'm locked in 2016. That's my problem.
It's they're all good acronyms.
Yeah.
But essentially, they sold Isak, which means they're going to have this benefit in terms of their books for quite a while, But the problem being that any club in this position, and I think the best example of this is Aston Villa. Villa didn't sell Watkins when they had the opportunities to sell him, and now he is almost certainly like he's gone kind of over the edge of being a bit like unfair.
A little stale.
He's a little stale.
Yeah.
If they sold him now, they won't make that much money for him.
No.
They had an opportunity a year and a half ago where they could have sold him for quite a lot of money, or a year ago for quite a lot of money.
Was that when John Duran also left for quite a lot of money?
Yeah.
Though? So they kind of, circumstances, right?
100%, but you have to take you basically have to take the opportunities to sell players in order to like maneuver the weird financial systems that have been implemented in the Premier League and UEFA. That's just kind of how it works. So I think we're actually going to cover this in a piece, and I think they'll be out in 2 days on The Athletic on Friday.
So, we're hearing about something ahead of time.
Yeah, so
I love an exclusive.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to cover this up. I can't tell you what's in the article yet, but we're going to be covering it.
Got it.
Tonali, Bruno, Livramento, Lewis Hall, all interesting sort of examples for Newcastle, because the question is, do they sell? They're aware that they will have interest in those players. Last summer, they went into the Isak situation, essentially thinking, we have the power here, we're not going to sell this player. We don't want to sell this player, we don't have to financially. Unfortunately, on a personal level, they then had to sell Isak because he was just like, I'm just not going to do my job if you keep me. And they eventually had to sell him probably at the wrong point of the window to get the player they wanted in, and at the wrong point of the window for like pre-season, for training them up for half system. So do they make a decision going into this summer where it's like, ideally, we don't sell Tonali, Bruno, Livramento, Hall, but knowing that we could cause ourselves a problem by not even considering the possibility that we have to sell one of those players, do we prepare ourselves for a very different type of summer where we know the player we're going to sign if one of them goes? Or alternatively, we sign them now so that we don't have to deal with the consequences of one of these players going, but we know we could sell them. So it's actually quite like a fascinating position Newcastle are in. They have to be clever. And like football clubs don't tend to like to be clever. They like to be emotional, and they like to be like driven by the fans. They like to be illogical, basically. Well, actually, could they be smart and just prepare for like the eventuality they need to sell it for like a footballing and a financial reason?
That was great podcasting there, wasn't it? The room fell silent for your... that was great, Amitai. What were you going to say, John?
Well, I was just going to say there's no stadiums left for them to sell now. Although, I don't know, can you sell your stadium back to yourself again?
Could they buy another one?
Could it go
and
the
then
other way?
Sell that to themselves as well. There's all sorts of different
That's
things
just the problem
they
with
could
football,
do.
isn't it? Eventually you run out of other people's stadiums.
Yeah. I feel as though we should say, and a newsman will know, that I believe that the reason that they say they have done that is so that because they're sort of preparing land around the stadium to expand or to do something. There are suggestions that perhaps there are other reasons, and coincidentally, it does help them with their PSR headroom, doesn't it? Although I read an article this morning that said that that won't be accepted.
So no, it won't be accepted on UEFA's measurement.
On UEFA's measurement, but not the Premier League.
Yeah, which for them, I guess, probably won't be a problem immediately because they're probably not going to get into Europe
Because they're
next
not
season,
Europe.
which is a very interesting element of the whole thing, which is clubs actually put themselves in a worse position now by qualifying for Europe because they don't have to comply with a different set of financial rules, which involve fines. It's and
they're much more stringent rules, the UEFA ones. But Chelsea did the same thing. You remember when they broke a lot of rules because they weren't in the Champions League for a little while, and then they were suddenly being held to account. So.
Yeah, it's boring, isn't it? That's the problem with these rules. They're boring. And I think that could be a death knell for rules. You know what I mean?
Rules
are
we're
fun.
just going to get rid of all of the rules?
No,
now?
not all of the rules, because not all the rules are boring. Like, that there are only 11 players on the field is not a boring rule.
What's the most exciting rule?
Yeah.
What's the most exciting rule? That's a really good question.
I have an answer.
Yeah, what's your answer?
My favourite rule is the fact that the when the goalkeeper is ahead of the last defender, he counts as a defender rather than it's like that rule. Which people,
I like that rule.
Honestly, people lose their minds over this one.
I was thinking that maybe the most exciting rule is the new possibility that they're going to sort of abandon short-term prison sentences in the UK in favour of fines and other sorts of things. You know. That sounds like a fun rule, you know. Just what's it based on? Oh, we haven't got any space. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, cool. Good stuff. Anyway, just to be clear, I'm not a prison expert. Don't know anything about it. Don't even really have an opinion. Just found that funny as a sort of a reference point to where we are in the world. Now, Arsenal, Kaya. Arsenal, we've got Eze, we've got Zubimendi, we've got Gyökeres, we've got Madueke, who didn't make it into the top 20.
Yeah.
But I think he's
Just on the outside.
hovering around outside. But Eze, Zubimendi, and Gyökeres are all in there. Let's play the game hits or misses. Now, I'd love...
I love Max Dowman. Oh, where's Max Dowman on the list?
He was free, actually.
He was free. We gave birth to him in the bowels of
Who
Colby.
did you actually get him from? You must have got him from somewhere. No academy ever really has like
His school? I don't know.
Yeah, there must have been
I
somewhere.
think he came when he was like 8 or 9.
You're looking it up,
I'm
Ant.
looking
Amitai's looking it up.
I love Max Dowman. We've had him since he was a nipper.
Oh. Billericay Town.
Billericay! Oh, you took him from Billericay. They're the corporate elite of the football world, reaching down, grabbing the children of Billericay.
Imagine how good he'd be at Billericay.
He'd be amazing.
He'd
He's playing every week at Billericay.
Did you see him absolutely crushing the under 19s?
His goal was great.
No one put a tackle in.
He did just run the straight line, but it's a great goal. It's a good finish as well.
Yeah.
The celebration afterwards is superb too.
He's not in the list, Kaya. Calm down. But Eze, Zubimendi, Gyökeres, Madueke. Give me hits and misses, and then we'll go around the room to get an umbire's take.
Okay, right. Eze, I think, despite the fact that he's been amazing against Spurs, specifically, I think overall, given he was brought in to provide a creative spark to help Arsenal in games where they've looked like they've been lacking it, you'd probably say a miss so far.
Really?
I think.
I think Eze's a hit.
He's a hit in the sense he was getting way better in recent weeks. And it looked like he was finding his feet in the team, and then he got injured again. But
I would say
finding
hit
your
on
feet is important as a footballer.
You really
very
need to know where they are.
Then he lost his calf, so now he's out for a month, which is a real shame.
I would say hit on the basis.
I'm fine with
They call him
that.
toe knee now, right? That's the joke. What do you call a man with no calves?
Good Lord.
Toe knee.
Christ alive.
Tony is a hit.
I would say he's a hit on the basis that I never expected him to be Martin Odegaard. I think he's come in.
Yeah.
He has added depth. He's scored in a couple of games where it mattered, as you said, against Spurs. But I understand what you're saying. Okay, Zubimendi.
For me, a hit in the sense that he's provided a really important balance in the midfield.
What about for the world, though? I know you like him, but
I do love him.
Is he a hit for the world?
I'd say a hit for the world.
Yeah, hit for the world.
Yeah, definitely.
We're all agreeing on hit there. Okay, Gyökeres.
Fourth.
Now, don't say hit. If you try to say hit, you're in trouble.
Depends.
Oh, he's scored against all the promoted teams and the teams in the relegation zone, and he's got a good physique.
He does have a lovely physique.
Lovely physique. Delightful physique.
I think...
Not yet a hit.
Scored for Sweden yesterday.
Scored 4 goals for Sweden across the international break.
You don't have to say he's a miss.
Oh, well, then I'll take back the Eze miss as well, then.
But
I don't think Eze's a miss.
But he's not a hit.
Yeah, okay, I'm open to that
Neither
as an
hit
idea.
nor miss.
Neither hit nor miss. Somewhere in between.
Time will tell.
I think
time will tell that he's a miss, but we can't say that. We can't say that just yet, can we?
he's scored important goals for Arsenal and been a player who, when Arsenal have had no other centre forward options, has actually helped carry the team through some difficult periods. And
It'll be fine. They'll spend 120 million and buy someone else next summer, and then we can forget about him. Right?
Who do you think they'll buy? Who's available striker-wise?
They'll buy Newcastle Stadium.
If they buy it and sell it again, then they could buy a striker.
It's a good way of beating teams, isn't it? If you bought Newcastle Stadium,
you get the
and didn't let them
50,000
in,
people inside it.
Why has no one thought of this before?
St James's Park just becomes the new
Just
currency.
with a massive padlock on the gate.
Sports Direct.
I would say on Gyökeres, he was brought in to... I think people assumed he was coming in to be someone who would...
To score goals?
Yes.
Right.
But he has scored important goals. But I think the
against Leeds.
Yeah, they count.
Or 9 goals against Leeds.
Yeah, they count. Well, listen, he's on 16 goals. I think 17 now, maybe. If he ends the season on 20 goals, I think it's hard to call a striker who's come in his first season in the Premier League and scored 20 goals a miss.
Are you counting his Swedish goals?
No, I'm counting all his Arsenal goals.
Okay.
Is this in all competitions?
All competitions, yeah.
And most of them were scored in other
what is
competitions.
it in the Premier League?
I think it's 9 in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, he was brought in to score more than 9 goals in the Premier League, right?
Yeah, that's probably fair.
You're
I think
stat padding a little bit.
No, I think if you scored 20 goals in your first season at a new club, I think it's hard to call yourself a miss. I'm sure people in the comments will disagree, and I'm sure people in this room disagree. But I think
no one's calling him a miss.
I think he's unlucky. He came in. Everyone he was the guy who scored 100 goals in 2 seasons, and people were expecting him to keep that up, which he was never going to do.
Let me ask you this though. I'll frame it a different way. Okay, can you imagine a world where Arsenal do sign a different striker this summer or next summer, and then Gyökeres kind of fades into the background, and he's remembered as a player that maybe wasn't quite as good as Lacazette or Aubameyang?
Oh, okay. I can't imagine a world in which Arsenal actually do that just in terms of numbers. But if they were to report, and let's say Hugo Ekitike, for example, I think Ekitike probably would have been better for the team overall. I think he would have offered stuff that is lacking.
Yeah.
But
surely all the strikers in the top 20 market you would have taken over him.
Let's play that game. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
There's so many good strikers in there.
Would you have taken Isak?
In the summer, yes.
Yeah. Would you have taken Ekitike?
Yes.
So now, would you take Benjamin Sesko?
No.
As in over Gyökeres, like looking back on both of their seasons. Because Arsenal were very interested in Benjamin Sesko.
Yeah.
It's not as though the team is a complete. He was high up on their list. I think.
And he's
hard to say
profile-wise, he's just way better, right? He's much younger, and I think for the same sort of feat, right?
But I think you have to look at what Arsenal needed now, which is a striker who could help them win the league right now. And it has taken Sesko a while to get to the level that he's got to. And if he was at Arsenal, at that level of time to adapt would have been a bit of a disaster.
How many goals has Sesko scored?
He's probably scored more,
but he's the thing is he also starts behind other players in the pecking order, whereas Gyökeres.
Gyökeres has, and he's been out injured for I think 6 weeks. Right.
I think if you look,
I don't mean that to compare against his goals. I just
back off, okay?
I just think at Arsenal he would have played more than he's played at Man United.
Sesko, probably, especially given that Havertz has been out for most of the season.
Yeah. Brian Mbeumo.
As a striker.
Well, he's played quite well as a striker for Man United. I think
Mbeumo would have been great. I don't know as a 9, but I think he would have been great.
Voltemada?
No.
Okay. I mean, now I don't think we can really qualify Mateus Cunha. Who else have we got on this list? João Pedro. Well, I mean, actually, let's hold on that one because we haven't talked about Chelsea yet.
Yeah.
And then the only other striker is Johan Wissa.
No.
Okay, so that's maybe half of them.
Yeah. I think Max Taumann is a great player. I think Gyökeres has come in to do a role at Arsenal, which he has achieved. I think people will judge him by other factors that are probably a bit harsh, and people have expected him to be the 100-goal guy, like I said before. He was never going to be that. I think if he gets 20 goals, I've said it like 5 times, but if he gets 20 goals in his first season, it's hard to call him a miss. That's my opinion.
And I don't think anyone here is calling him a miss.
I felt like John was calling him a miss.
No, I just think that you're glazing this in Arsenal bias a little bit.
That's fair, yeah. That's fine.
I think he's not a hit or a miss, and I think he's probably been better than the people who don't like him want to admit, and he's probably been worse than the people who do like him want to admit. Something like that.
Yeah, that's, I think, a hit on that take.
Producer James is an Arsenal fan. James, give us, is it just hit or miss?
I think it is somewhere in the middle, but I think he was bought for less than Madueke. I don't think he was bought to be, our 20-goal striker. He's a very specific player for very specific games. He's a sledgehammer. Havertz is more of a lockpick. That's kind of my take.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Although I think he was bought for £55 million, rising to £63 million. So he's definitely bought for more than Madueke.
I'll have to take your word on that.
There it is. And what about Madueke?
I think when he came in, the expectations were so low, and I think a lot of Arsenal fans reacted negatively to his signing. But he's actually been better than people have thought, and Bukayo Saka has been out for long periods of this season, and Madueke has carried the candle quite well.
Okay, fair enough. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will skip Chelsea because we've run out of time, and we will summarise with our final categories. Okay, we're back after that lovely break. Right, we're gonna finish soon, but before we do, here's 5 questions I want answers from the room for. Okay, the first is the best club for transfers overall from the summer 2025 transfer market window, and also with the stipulation that we're really just talking about teams that signed players inside that top 20 most expensive bracket. So really the teams that we've talked about. Amitai.
Oh, you should ruin my answer. I was going to say Sunderland.
No, you can say Sunderland if you want to. Actually, do you think they won the transfer market?
In the most cynical way possible, I'm not going to pretend I'm 20 anymore and everyone should have a grand plan in place for everything. If your goal for the season is to stay in the Premier League and you sign loads of players that mean you don't come close to getting relegated at any point, then you've had the best window, by a distance.
They kind of did the Forest thing.
Yeah, they've done exactly the thing they needed to do. They've not pretended to be smart. They've just kind of signed players who've kept them up.
Fair enough. Okay, Amitai as a Leeds fan can't bring himself to say Man United. John, what about you as a Leeds fan?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the list of what we're talking about, it's clearly Man United.
Sure.
I think there's probably mitigating factors for why that's the case, not least because of the tactical shift we've maybe seen happening has sort of favoured them a little bit. And
Yes.
I think it's kind of interesting they sort of lent into let's just get 3. Because we've just talked about Liverpool doing that and it not working out.
Yes.
Interesting that like Man United have done that and it worked in their favour. But
Liverpool had a good team before, though, and Man United had quite a bad one, so maybe
exactly.
that's why, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I also do feel as though under Amorim, the early parts, they were trying to play elite football, whatever that means, right? Scare quotes, because it's always shifting the Overton window of what an elite team should look like from a tactical point of view. And I think they sort of just lent into, well, what are we good at? We're good at playing direct, and let's bring in players who suit that.
Yeah.
And it's worked out quite well for them, especially in a season where, as we said before, they're sort of playing it on easy mode. They've only got to play 40 games.
Yes.
And that's meant that they can play with the level of intensity that really brings the best out of them. So
Yeah.
I
Plus,
think
they've finished 15th last season,
absolutely.
and they're going to finish in the top
and
4.
Spurs very much haven't done that,
Yeah.
right? So I think in that respect, it's good transfer work from Man United.
Okay, Kyle.
I think I'm not allowed to say Arsenal here. I feel
You
it's
can
almost
say
like-
whatever you want.
I think Manchester United.
Arsenal have
You
a
can't
very
say
good
Arsenal. They've literally not hit.
No.
What?
I think that's not fair. I think that's not fair. I think
Thank you.
I think there's a good argument for saying Arsenal here,
Yeah.
because the one thing they needed to see out the league season, which we assume they will do, it's a bit like when you're commentating on a game that's 1-1 and it's 90 minutes, and the comm asks you who's your man of the match, and you're like. Assuming that Arsenal win the league,
Yeah.
I think you could say Arsenal, because what they needed was strength in depth.
Yeah.
And what they've done is brought strength in depth. Is any of their strength in depth hugely exciting? No, obviously. But that's not what strength in depth is.
But when we say hit and miss, we're not saying are these good or bad players. We're saying have they worked? And if none of them you can say, oh, they really feel like a massive hit, apart from Zubamendi, who again is like he's been really good all season, and that's what you want from a player. If the others have been like, yeah, maybe, not really.
I think as a collective,
Do you think that they are going to win the league because they brought in Eze, for example? Or
I think they're going to win the league because they brought in all of those.
Yeah,
players.
yeah, I agree entirely. If they hadn't have signed those,
Oh, we got
players-
him, guys.
No,
We got him.
I genuinely think that, like, my issues with Man U aside, I think genuinely I could quite easily argue that Arsenal are the team that like won the window here still, because they're going to do the thing they wanted to do this season, which was win the Premier League. Like,
I like Liverpool won the Premier League last season. They didn't sign anyone,
He's
right?
so upset.
No, because I think
But they had a squad ready made to do that. Arsenal didn't have a squad ready
Liverpool
made to do
didn't.
that.
We've literally just talked about how their squad is bonds from the start. Anyway, like I think that all we're doing here is we're retrofitting it on outcome, and I don't think that works.
Retrofit.
Like even with
Retrofit.
Sunderland, you could argue that they've overperformed massively this season. So essentially, if they'd not done that, then we're saying that they have the same.
I also think on the Man U point, they were signing for a Ruben Amorim system, right? They weren't. It's worked out well for them in the sense that Michael Carrick has turned this set of players and transferred them in the summer into a good team. But they were signing for a specific system, and they kind of failed in that sense. If you look at, they needed players from the midfield to try and help improve that, and that they didn't come in. So I think there's an argument that Man United has worked out well, and you can say they won the window from that sense. And I think they're in a really good position to go on and do better this summer. But for what Arsenal wanted in the summer, they did exactly that.
It's true, Kyra. It's official. Arsenal won the transfer. No, we're moving on.
But winning the window is about getting the most hits, right? And for me, that's always what it's going to be. As a recruitment team,
Sure.
all you want to do is go every season. We got like
hit.
Like, they got Senna Lomans as well. Hit. Like none of the signings they made this season have been misses.
Well, none
How
of
can you
Arsenal
argue that
signings
that's
have
not
been
winning?
misses either, really.
They've not.
But it's true.
Okay, we have to move on
That's true.
because we've got producer James here, and he's not yet confident enough to tell us to stop. That's the problem. So very quickly, worst club.
of these like top clubs.
Well, I mean, of any really. Like I like that you introduced Sunderland, so feel free to introduce another if you want.
I'm going to say Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Chelsea did not resolve the biggest problem that they have,
Yeah.
which is like players in the spine of the team that you can trust to dig them out
Fair
of difficult situations.
Well, we
And-
didn't actually get to talk about Chelsea, but I will say that Joao Pedro was the only player in the top 20 that
Yeah.
they signed. And then of the others, they signed Gittins, Estevao, Garnacho, Hato.
They also signed Delap, who just
Rory
gets
Delap, of course. I
Ro-
forgot.
Rory.
Rory Delap. That's the dad. Shit.
That
What's
would be
his name?
well. To be fair, he would have brought experience in Liam.
Liam Delap, yeah, of course.
But they had a problem at the end of. They won the Club World Cup, they won the Conference League. But anyone looking at it would have gone, right, the difference between this Chelsea team being competitive in competitions that don't really matter.
Yeah.
No offense to anyone who's got like a Club World Cup tattoo on.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't like actually matter that much.
Yeah.
The difference between that and winning the Premier League or like challenging for the Premier League or challenging in the Champions League was taking a bunch of talented young players and introducing someone who could like really guide them through it. Like I always think about the fact that there's this joke with Tosin, which is like they call him Uncle because he's the oldest player in the dressing room. He's like he's in his late 20s.
Right.
Like no team has. I mean, I might be wrong in this, but I don't think a single team has ever succeeded with such a young group of players.
Alan Hansen joins us in the podcast studio.
But they had Cantona.
They had Cantona.
That's the thing. They had Cantona. They had Bruce. I assume was quite old at that point. Irwin, pretty old.
They had a couple of elderly spines.
Yeah, like Chelsea had, I think, the worst window. They signed loads of talented players, and like you could say in 5 years, will all of these players be sold for more money than they bought them for? Like maybe, probably. Like, but
I think some of them won't be because they're not playing that much.
No, but did they resolve their problem? No.
That's very true. Okay, no, fair enough. John, worst?
Arsenal.
Kaya, worst?
I agree with Amitai Chelsea.
Yeah,
I'm going to go Newcastle.
I think Newcastle in for a shout as well, right? And I feel a bit sorry for them, but they got right?
Yeah.
Like every step of the way, none of the players were their first choice. Nothing they wanted to happen
middle class. It's literally what's happened.
And then they had to buy and sell their own stadium to themselves. What a shame. Okay, best transfer in terms of being a hit individual player.
Ooh.
I wonder if it's Hugo Ekitike.
Yeah, I think either Ekitike or, to be honest, it's probably one of Mbeumo and Cunha.
Sure.
They're both really good, and like they've done well for Man U, and they were not stupid expensive.
Yeah.
So like I'd say one of those two probably.
Yeah. Xavi Simons, John?
Yeah, no, it's not very good. Yeah, maybe Spurs have had the worst transfer.
Maybe.
But yeah, I'd go with Ekitike as well. Hit the ground running and in less than ideal circumstances.
Yeah, I love the surprise of it. Ekitike or Mbeumo, I think would be a good answer. Kaya?
I think there's a case for Victor Gyökeres. It's Ekitike and Mbeumo.
Max down with the Bill Ricky transfer. Okay, worst
signing.
individual. Worst miss.
Probably Visser.
Right,
like Voltemade is the one that jumps out because he's played a lot and he's not been great. Although he did have that scoring run. Like Visser's like a non-entity. Right. I feel like one of the defining images of Newcastle season will be him on the bench being given like his instructions as Newcastle lose against Sunderland in like the last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Okay, John.
Yeah. I don't know. I was going to say something along the lines of like Florian Wirtz in terms of they've just not used him well at all, and I think he's just one of the best footballers in the world right now.
So it's not a him thing; it's a kind of circumstance thing.
It's
a
sort
circumstantial
of
miss.
It's sort of impressive how they've managed to make him look not as good in many respects.
Okay, Kai, are you going to say Gyökeres to balance out your other answer?
Hell no. I'm going to say...
Gyökeres has had some of the worst misses this season.
That's fair. But I think Jeremy Frimpong's a good shout in the sense that Trent Alexander-Arnold was such a key player for Liverpool and they've not replaced him in the slightest to the extent that Dominic Szoboszlai is playing right back quite a lot for them, and that's not good.
Got it. All right, well, there we go. Hey, Amitai, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
John, thank you. Kaya, thank you.
Thank you.
Producer James, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back on... Well, actually, we've got an audio exclusive Ring for Analysis coming out this week with me and John. That'll be out on Friday, at some point on Friday. Thanks. Bye.